says I'm live. Am I live? No. I'm live! I didn't know I was live. It said I was live for 10 seconds when I wasn't live, but now I am! And we're back again for 2023. It's PBH's Free Fringe. This is the digital Free Fringe. I'm actually in Wales at the moment, but I will be in Edinburgh, and at least one of my guests every day probably will be in Edinburgh, and sometimes they'll be international. But today I've got somebody that's actually on the site, actually in Edinburgh, doing a real PBH show with real people there to see, and they're going to be in the Banshee Labyrinth. And then I've also got somebody that's representing the digital Fringe and Cyberia venue, where we've got all sorts of stuff going on. It's going to be amazing. We've got 2 people watching, and I know one of them is actually one of my guests, but I know that one of them might be somebody else entirely. But I'm going to bring on my first guest, who's on the ground, actually in Edinburgh at this moment. I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to hang on a minute. Hang on. I'm going to bring everybody in. Let's just do that. That's probably easiest. And then we can go from there. Hooray! And then I'm going to move me around to here. Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Yes, that didn't go well because I was supposed to. I don't know what I'm doing, but we'll get there. Jane.
Hello.
Edinburgh. You're in Edinburgh at the moment. How's it going so far?
It's going really well. I've loved being here. I've loved the Banshee is amazing. And the people have just, everyone I've met there has just been so friendly, so supportive, helping to get things, up and running. And I've also really loved, just because the Banshee is so central, just kind of walking up and down. And I've not really started the flyering, but I will. But I have enjoyed just chatting to people, maybe they give me a flyer and I'll say, here, take one of mine. And so I feel like I've kind of made a few Fringe friends, and it's just been really buzzy and really fun so far. So I'm just looking forward to it. I think that one of the things I'm quite conscious of is that probably I can't maintain this pace for the whole run. I'm going to have to, at some point, just slow down. And I've enjoyed seeing some shows as well the past few days, and that's been wonderful. And I'm hoping that I can still continue to do that as the days go on. So yeah, it's great. Loving it so far. And the weather's been all right too. I think I got soaked once. So that's not bad.
That's good. And your first show's later on today.
It is today at 3:15. Yes.
And Caron, you're in the studio there, and you're in the studio for the whole of them 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm doing Lazy Fringe this year. I'm doing Edinburgh from the comfort of my couch. And we've got a VR Meta Spaces environment where people can come in and see shows that are screened live from here into the space. So you can either sit at your desk on your own and watch them on your lonesome, or you can log in and watch them on screen with people dropping in from around the world, we hope.
Yeah. And also, the good thing about that is if you're in Edinburgh, you can watch them while you're waiting to see something else, or if you're in your hostel or hostel or hotel or wherever you are, or tent.
Taking a break in your still maintaining a connection with the theatre, the Ed Fringe vibe, but being able to do it from your accommodation to give you a bit of a... We might have to do a yoga session in there, or a breathing session, because we've got a networking event for producers in the session, and there'll also be in week 2 a meetup for equity. So
that's good. So it's like a sort of virtual meetup space for people that are there and people that aren't there.
It's
get together.
If you can't be there, be here. But experimenting. But it's Jane's Free Fringe, I understand.
Jane is Free Fringe, aren't you? Yeah.
Your first Fringe.
Yeah. And it's my first Fringe. If it weren't for the Free Fringe, I would not be here. It's amazing to have this organization and to be able to bring work that has been, made and have that sort of empowerment to come and take it to a platform that's really established. I mean, I can't think of any other way that I would have been able to perform this show. It's amazing. And, I've been involved in theatre my whole life. Haven't really acted for a long time, but I think there's this thing of like the Fringe is really inaccessible. How do I get there? How do I get the money? But the Free Fringes are really kind of helpful and supportive platform to be able to kind of bring work to an audience. And for me as well, as I've kind of gone through various kind of roles in the theatre industry and come at it from different perspectives, I think that I've increasingly learned that for me, it's about theatre making. It's not about going for an audition after audition and screen tapes and, in and out. And I think that being able to kind of make something that you want to share with an audience and to have a platform to do it without having to jump through a million hoops and without having to be super rich is amazing. So I'm just really glad to be here, and yay for PBH Free Fringe. Honestly, that's just great. So yeah, 3:15 today is my first one, and I'm really excited, and hopefully we'll have some people coming along to watch.
Well, I should hope so. Yeah. So that is the good thing with PBH is I'm very involved with it now. That that you can sort of explore and experiment, but you can also, we've got established people and people that have just started and all sorts of in between. Mm-hmm. So it's good to try and find your voice. And have you already? I mean, there was the big meetup yesterday with other Free Fringes. Did you meet many?
Yeah, so the meeting was so packed. It was a bit hard to kind of see other people, but I have met a few people. Obviously, we've got people at the venue who I've been talking to, so I know that there's such a mix of work at the Banshee. I know that there's a sort of clowning physical theatre show. We've got magic and, lots of poetry, spoken word. So it's great that there's just a big mix, as you say. Yeah, just lots of different things coming together in one space. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, so your show in particular, what is it about?
Right. So this is a show that has been a long time in the development. It started off actually with reading. It started off with me reading The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot when I was 19. So that's quite a long time period of development. The poem really spoke to me. It's this famously bleak text. And probably at the age of 19, that was what I liked about it. But I think, the poem does really capture something of that feeling of isolation and loneliness and disconnect and the inability actually to communicate meaningfully with other people. And I think, as someone who has had mental health challenges all the way through my life, I think that those are things that I've been really conscious of. And so The Wasteland's kind of stayed with me. It's always been there in my head. And, I've experimented with it in different ways. I was going to do a physical theatre version of the actual text itself. But then just through, discussion with different creatives, I was really encouraged to actually start writing. And that was not something that I had foreseen. I hadn't ever really done anything like that before. And I'd always thought of myself as a performer. I'll take someone else's words and I'll do something with them. So it was this really kind of bizarre sort of awakening when I went, actually, this story is right here and it fits in with the poem. And but also I felt like I wanted to tell my own version of it and to make it funny as well, because ultimately humor is such a vital kind of life tool for getting through difficult times. And so I definitely didn't want it to be like, oh, this is very earnest, this is very serious. So, whilst The Wasteland, hopefully, the piece remains true to the text, it also kind of says, well, actually, hang on a minute, let's look at things from maybe a slightly different perspective. And it ends, I think, in a way that is hopeful and realistic and relatable. So, and one of the things for me that kind of the overlap between mental health and creativity, that really, as part of this process, has become so clear to me that perhaps some of the reasons why I was struggling or have been, in the past, is because I haven't actually been really expressing that creativity. And so one of the kind of messages that I really hope people take from the show is that, go out and do the thing that makes you feel unexpectedly good. As long as it's safe and sensible. I talk about some ways in which I did that weren't really sensible, but when you find that you can actually perform and get some of the anxiety out, it's really, it was so empowering, because a lot of what traditional psychotherapy and treatment's about, it's like, let's calm it all down. Let's just, stop, maybe put that to one side and think about it in a different way. And I kind of come to realize that actually, no, the more you let it out, through talking and, in my case, performing it, sharing it with people, and somatically, like getting it out of your body, it's like the most powerful thing that I've been able to do for my mental health. So, I just would really encourage people to kind of just do it. Didn't expect this to come to me at this point in my life. But it did, through a kind of series of connections and just little moments that pushed it along in the way that it did. And it's about a 45-minute piece. We've got some fun music in there, and I really hope it contributes to the conversation around mental health, and empowers people to kind of go, right, I'm going to go and do that thing. Doesn't matter what it is. Something, it just let the good things pile up, and the bad things, they don't have that same power anymore. Is kind of where I'm coming from, and I hope people can take that from the show.
Yeah, but it's also a balance with creativity, because it's like you want to do things, but it's scary to do things. Sometimes it's so stressful. You're like, is it better to let this all out, or just like let it build? It's just such a difficult thing. Yeah,
there's a whole thing in the show about dopamine. And how, like, that's the chemical that it's about reward, and so when you can get the dopamine hit, yay, like life is good. But when that's somehow frustrated, or there's a kind of obstacle in your way, then that can be really difficult. So there's a whole section of the piece actually that deals with this craziness of involves me with a kind of fur coat on, dancing in the dark with Bruce Springsteen, tired and bored with myself, and chucking the jacket down and be like, fuck, what are we doing? And it is, I think, the admin, the kind of organization, the jumping through hoops, that isn't for me. Really, as much as it needs to be done to some extent, but stressful.
Yeah, it is really difficult, because you think, I've got to do it, and you can lose yourself in it. You find yourself for years at a time doing the admin and not doing the actual stuff that you're trying to make happen. Yeah. What about you, Caron? Have you you lost in the admin, or are you getting it all working now?
I mean, I say my background's in stage management, so I'm kind of trying to force my way through to sort of bring a little bit of light to my creative side. That for many, many years I've supported lots of projects. So I'm kind of going from the digital virtual interests that I have to create this venue, to some of the ideas I've had for creating work within those digital spaces. Just being able to be part of the Free Fringe and kind of tidy up and scratch the itches that bring all the technical stuff together this year. So my ambitions for bringing a show, PBH, will help me go to the next stage. So all the times I've been in Edinburgh in the past has very much been me being there to support others rather than doing a piece of my own. So I'm really, really excited to be part of the Fringe, but from a distance, because I'm very much a gregarious introvert. So this distance away from Edinburgh right now is very, very nice, and I'll gradually make my way. Because say creativity and your own mental health and the way that you see the world as creatives, we tend to be very tuned into that and looking after ourselves as well as looking after our audiences and creating the work. I think we take ourselves to places and we examine places that we have to be able to present the work. So looking after yourself at the Fringe and say, Jane, you've got 2 weeks of trying to maintain a sensible pace and the excitement of, on one hand, being I'm at the Edinburgh Fringe and I want to see everything, to oh yes, I also have to eat and sleep and just take a step back every now and again. And I think it can be really hard to do that.
It can. Pacing yourself is a difficult thing. Jane, is this your first time at the Fringe, or have you been up here before?
It's my first time. I mean, I've been in Edinburgh, when I was a student, I worked in the box office and was sort of really hungry for it and just went to see things and never quite found a way in to perform. But yeah, it's my first time as a performer. And absolutely, I'm here with my 10-year-old daughter and my husband. So we're sort of, I've got to balance that as well. And that's actually something else that I talk about in the show is just maintaining that sense of stability, because just because this is happening to me, they're still there. They need to kind of, it's my daughter's birthday on the 7th. So we need to do that. And yeah, it's about finding a model for the Fringe, I think, that works for wherever you're coming from in your life, isn't it? So for some people, being able to do their show and then go out and, have an amazing night on top of everything they've done. I just know that I can't do that. I think for me, sober till it's over, that was my catchphrase, because I don't want to mess it up. It feels so important to me that I don't want to go, that would have been better if I hadn't had 2 glasses of wine last night, So yeah, I am really conscious of that. And again, I'll just show you. One of the other things I talk about in the show is like the desperation to kind of fix yourself. So it still lives in me. So I've got this. It's flower essence, like dynamic. It's to be more. This is for renewing your awakening your vital forces. So this is for the morning, and the other one is for slowing down, relaxing, and unwinding. Oh. Not funny. So yeah, I mean, it's just about trying to be sensible, isn't it? Actually, I think my anxiety has prepared me quite well for this, because you've got to, as a person, who does struggle, I've got to work pretty hard all the time to maintain an equilibrium. So I know what works for me and I know what doesn't. Yeah. And I think that there will be times when I'm just going to have to come back and just go, right, I'm going to go and just lie down for an hour, and that's okay, because that's how I'm approaching it. Yeah.
That's the good thing, though. If you're coming into it as an adult, you're not going to get the same experience as somebody that's like straight out of drama school, or like a teenager, like the first comedy gigs ever or whatever. But they people that are younger. I wasn't particularly young the first time I went to the Fringe, but I was sort of more enthusiastic than I am, I think, now. And the trouble is, you don't pace yourself properly. You go out, you stay up till 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you're just wasted for the day. And by the time, there's a very interesting sort of, if people that come from the beginning and the people that are there from the middle and the end, I was people watching by the end of it. There's a very different energy. Like, you're exhausted, everybody is exhausted, you're done with it, and then new people come in and they're like fresh and new, and you're like, that's fascinating. They're gonna learn through 2 days in. They're completely wasted. So it's good that you're prepared, already prepared. You're gonna enjoy it in a different way, though, from the people that are just like, rah!
Yeah, definitely. It's just about, I'm going to take my daughter. Hopefully we're going to get to see some things. But, when people are flyering and it's like, it's at 10 o'clock, I'm like, no, sorry, can't do that.
That's when all the kid shows are, really. And they mostly because you said you're a teacher, so you're going to go back towards the end. Mm-hmm. But that means also that all the kids shows that are running are towards the beginning. So
in the morning, right? So that's I can kind of take her to some, and then she might get one really late night.
8 o'clock.
And me as well. One late night towards the end.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, you could come and rest in your house and see some stuff from the digital Fringe. You don't have to go anywhere.
No, that's lovely. That's really nice.
But we've got a few things that are live all the way through, and also some pre-recorded. So, Caron, you're setting all that up and you're coordinating for the Cyberia as well to make sure that
I mean,
yeah.
this first week is a bit of a, getting up all the digital posters and being able to put codes up so people can donate, so we can have a digital bucket list, because I think that's an important thing of PBH Fringe. Is it is the free Fringe. There isn't an obligation to buy tickets. It isn't ticketed in that way. So being able to encourage that notion of, a bucket to contribute, and, seeing the value in culture, and having the relationship and the dialogue with yourself going to free Fringe shows to kind of say, what was this worth to me, and how is that, is that a pound? Do people even carry money around with them at the moment? Are people, sort of swiping cards? And it's always the hardest thing for us as artists to talk about, and that's money. We're all really bad at talking about it. We're all trying to find it, but it is the thing that makes things possible in this current capitalist world. So, I'm very much looking forward to not having a massive program, because I think the big Edinburgh Fringe program is so overwhelming. Having the PBH Fringe little wee book that you can kind of look through, sort of encouraging people to kind of go, well, if you're overwhelmed with the big one, go to the little wee blue book, and
Exactly.
that's not quite so overwhelming. And then we've had some live shows that have performing on Zoom. There's yourself doing some shows on YouTube. There's and what we're doing is we've got all of those shows in a little program, and people can drop into the virtual space beforehand, like the foyer of the theatre, and then at 15 minutes before the Zoom show starts, there'll be a Zoom link on screen, and people will be able to zip into the auditorium of the person who's performing. So you go into their live audiences, and then afterwards you can either go off and get your coffee, or you can come back to the virtual space, and it'd be really interesting to hear what people are saying about shows night after night. So so we're sort of a little digital enclave of the PBH Free Fringe. So tonight we've got, this afternoon actually, is Verses for a WTF World, which is Michael Bruchard. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as an audience member tonight, rather than having an audience as well. So I'm just going to be interesting to talk to artists and see how it's going, and see what vibe I can pick up from the social media as well. So looking as a stage manager and as a producer, can I help amplify the shows of PBH? With the PBH ethos is about trying to pick up sort of your shows now. I've heard about those, Jane. It's like, what can I find out, and what's being said about you, and can I feed that back into sort of the massive echo chamber that becomes the Ed Fringe hashtag.
Well, I mean, this is a good thing, because it's the first year that we've got a sort of virtual space, whereas you've got the option to see all the live shows if you're there, and all the digital shows wherever you are. But this is the first time we've had like a little space where you can come together and discuss both of them. So people can come and discuss like Jane's show or anybody's show, or Jane can come and discuss somebody else's show. So that's quite exciting, really. That's a good thing.
And we've got some events as well. So Cyberia Salon, who essentially own Cyberia, which is 39 Whitfield Street. It's a recreation of their very first building in London in 1994, which was the very first internet cafe ever. There's some fantastic history. So its legacy is going now into sort of meta spaces. So there's an audience for Cyberia Salon that aren't necessarily Edinburgh Fringe attendees, but having their event in there on Tuesdays with Michael's at the end. The idea is, you've come to this event that you would normally go to. Hey, stay around. You can see a live show. So can we actually generate audiences from communities that use the online virtual spaces that wouldn't normally see live theatre? So, I'm excited to see how audiences react to it from the internet side. Also, just to see if it will hold up. Will it crash? Will it cope with being as doing an hour stream? So it's PBH Fringe is giving me the August to be able to iterate. I think that's the thing with Fringe, is you're able to iterate each day. Although you're doing the same show, if you're scripted, it's never the same. And that's the beauty of live theatre. It lives within the performers and it lives with the audience. It will be a different show depending on what audience. If it's a large audience, if it's a small audience, it will be very different. And the actors and performers react accordingly. And being able to do that over a period of time, for a lot of work I've done digitally for getting my bread and butter, it's been events which take 5 or 6 weeks to prepare. You then do one day event and that's it. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and the end of the world can happen because you lose an internet connection. So it's actually quite precarious to day events. So this opportunity to curate together the people who have submitted remote shows and be able to sort of see, well, where do they fit in, and they've actually slotted together, really nicely, and put something together that's quite an interesting program. That if you miss today, you can go, oh, when's it on next? And there's not going to be the fear of missing out with this program, because if you missed it today, hey, time travel, you'll be able to see it next week, because it kind of it hits this routine with most of the shows that have put themselves in for the entire run. And then we've got some little spot performances of people that are just doing 2 nights here and there, very much connected to the horror the horror venue, I think. So yeah, it's really exciting.
And it's good to try and also explore this, because 3 or 4 years ago we weren't even looking at the digital stuff, but then it was all, and then people have abandoned it. So it's like trying to get the balance here. You're on the ground actually in Edinburgh. Have you, Jane, have you done much digital theatre or anything like that, or explored it during the last few years?
Interesting question. I don't think I'd be on the ground in Edinburgh were it not for a lot of the things that were starting to happen online during lockdown and just coming out of the pandemic. Again, it's about accessibility. I live in Aberdeen, and there is actually, the beginnings of a really interesting creative community there in theatre, but still, in terms of the opportunity to kind of explore, I did feel a little bit limited. But then of course during lockdown everything went online, and so it almost just opened up this world. So I started dipping into classes here and there, and actually that was how I started to get to know people who have then become absolutely fundamental to the development of my piece. So people like Di Sherlock, who is a dramaturg and director who is London based. We've worked together collaboratively on this piece for 6 months, with just days when we've managed to get together in the room, brilliant, but those days have not been as many as we would have liked, but we've still been able to do it because we've had that connection. So actually, although I've not ever kind of participated in the kind of platform that Caron's talking about, I think that, yeah, you're right, Elise. It's almost like we did it really well and it was happening a lot and people were kind of getting all these experiences in their living room. And let's not lose that, because it was great. And things that people wouldn't normally have access to suddenly became available. Well, why are we changing that?
Exactly. You're going to put it all together, because this is the first year since 2019 that I will be back in Edinburgh, but not yet in the middle of the month. I'm very sort of nervous and excited, because I know I was going since 2006. I've been going there for most of the month, almost every year. And then there's just a break, and it's like I've been really scared to go back out and do live shows and stuff. So it's easing myself in. And if a lot of people, their careers started during lockdown, so it's a completely new thing that they were completely digital, and you don't want to abandon that, because there's still a lot of people that aren't able to go out, or that just don't want to go out, that want to have an experience like that. So trying to pull that together and make it so it's an ideal world for everybody would be absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. Just about having the accessibility and the inclusivity that comes with, the option to watch on a screen in your own house, fantastic.
Exactly. And also, a lot of people were very sniffy about it. And asked a little bit again about the digital aspect of it. It's like we've got to work together. We're all in this world.
And of course, I mean, there's still the option now to go and have the live theatre experience, and that's a different thing. You know, they're not the same thing. So
no, exactly. There's room for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's moving audience around. Yeah, it's moving audience around as well. That we think of theatre as a thing for us performing, but the experience for the audience to have a persistence and build a relationship with the company and understand what show they're doing next, so they end up looking for you. And then if it's not coming to your town, is there somewhere they can come and see you in a virtual environment? And that's going to take some evolution in terms of how companies dialogue with that audience who are interested in that. But yeah, the accessibility part of it is really important.
Yeah. So yeah, finding a balance. Like you want regional theatre, you want things in people's actual backyards, but it's a slow thing happening. Everything's stopped and we're gonna start it again.
And PBH is allowing that experiment to take place. So,
as you were saying earlier as well, Caron, it's that you know, the fact that someone might come to it through the digital route and then go, right, well, I'm going to go and follow this up. And I think that's, you know, that sort of cross fertilization or whatever it is. I don't know what to call it, but you know, just the fact that you might have people starting in one place and ending up in another. What's not to like about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so next week we've got people dancing featuring for one of the evenings, and they're a company based in the Midlands that I've been exploring digital communities with, because they've got a quite sizable group of the network who have access limitations with internet. So they have various requirements for mobility in physical spaces, and as dancers they're incredibly fit. So it's not about not being able to get there. There's a component that actually it's exhausting to go to these places that aren't always equipped with your best interests at heart. So they came to me and asked, is there a digital exploration? So I'm taking them on this adventure, and access for ease of audience is really key. And that's why this particular platform that we're using has been used, because it's very easy to get to if you've never done it before. So yeah, I'm looking forward to screening their work. They're going to be coming in to see it, and hopefully they'll take a physical piece maybe to the Fringe next year. So there's kind of this leapfrog that could happen with the creative communities as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So in your venue, Jane, is there anything else that you looked and thought that looks exciting that you could maybe?
Yeah, so I've only been in there for one day yesterday, and I did spend a big chunk of time with my technician. We did a pretty extensive tech, which was great. But so the people that I have talked to, have I got the flyer here? There's a poet, an American poet. I do. She's called Brooke Feingold, the Town Crier, and I really like the sound of her show. Poetry, comedy, music, and storytelling. If the summer camp talent show was in the gay upside down.
Wow.
So I like the sound of that. She's also in the banqueting room. And there's another company called Stolen Table, and they're doing some physical theatre in Clown, which is right up my street as well. So I'm going to go and try and catch them if I can. Yeah. So and then I think I was also talking yesterday to someone that does magic mentalism. Is that right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
There is. That's the great thing. I love it up there, and I'm really looking forward to going up there and seeing everything, because you know it is a bit much to roll out of bed at 9 o'clock in the morning and start seeing things, especially if you stayed up till 6. But you can if you want. You can get up and watch things all through the night, really.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. Or just have a rest.
I'm excited to see your show as well, Elise, when it gets here.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see it too. I'm going to have to tweak it and remember what I'm doing with it. All right. Well, this is good. I'll let you get on with your James now and prepare for your shows and your lives and the digital wonders and the live mess of everything. And
yeah, it's all started.
it's all kicked off.
Yeah.
The excitement. All right, well, I'll see you soon, and good luck with your show, Jane Williams.
Thank you.
At the Banshee Labyrinth with, what's the name of your show again?
What the Thunder Said.
What the Thunder Said at 3:45, is it?
3:15.
15, yeah, 3:15. Don't miss it. Don't listen to me. And Caron, you're going to be there all the time. You've also got a podcast. What days are your podcast?
Podcast is on Tuesdays at about 11 o'clock. It's usually a pre-record, but I'm actually going to do the West Park Bench podcast live from a park bench in Long Eaton, and it's going to be going live to Clubhouse.
Brilliant. All right. Well, there's loads on, and have a lovely Fringe, whether you're actually in Edinburgh or not in Edinburgh, wherever you are. It's going to be amazing. We can all take part.
Yeah.
It's a community.
So if you can't be there, be here.
Exactly. Be here. All right then. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.